Verse 331. Let the yogin have white cloth dyed in dark blue or brownish red with cow dung or mud or fruits or leaves. We're in a section of rules. We're in a section of the Lankavatara Sutra which is dealing with rules. And these rules apply to the person who's had an enlightenment event in their life and seeks to establish themselves in it. Now, there's nothing special about these rules. What we're dealing with is our own personal psychology, and especially how an enlightenment event might affect that psychological disposition. There are some very basic ways that this can happen to do with our ordinary everyday functions, but how we interact with the world. In the previous two videos, we looked at how this applies to possessions, to our bed, and to our attitude with which we interact with the world. Having had an enlightenment event, should we immediately set ourselves up as a teacher? Should we gather some devotees? Perhaps acquire a golden throne and start pontificating? Perhaps we should start growing our hair long, adorning our body in certain ways, get a set of robes. And that's what this verse is about. It's about what you wear. Dark blue or brownish red. We're actually spoilt for choice in this verse, aren't we? It should be white cloth dyed with cow dung, mud, or fruits or leaves. The idea here is it should be as basic as possible. But even in the limited amount you've got here, you could see there's some scope for, quite a lot of scope for the ego. And perhaps you could get people discussing the merits of dyeing it with cow dung or fruits. Doesn't it attract flies if you use cow dung? Yes, but if you dye it with fruits, you might attract the wasps and the stinging insects. That would be to defeat the purpose. The main thing is you shouldn't have to give it any thought at all. You're not making a fashion statement. Verse 332, the yogin is permitted to carry a bowl of full Magadha measure made of either stone or clay or iron or shell or quartz. And I looked into this thing about the begging bowl in the previous verse. Again, we're just wanting something basic here. We interact with the world in a basic way. We're not promoting ourselves as enlightenment beings. We need to get by somehow. So we do not engage with the world in terms of our status as enlightenment practitioners. We get on with it in an ordinary way. We're not looking to be accorded honours, either in terms of financial rewards or in terms of social status. Verse 333 is also concerned with this aspect about how we clothe ourselves. The yogin whose final aim is to discipline himself may carry a curved knife, 4 fingers long for cutting cloth. He who is intent on disciplining himself may not learn the science of mechanics. So the final aim is to discipline himself. This is what it's about. It's about disciplining the ego. So we make our so we get some white cloth, we cut it, sew it and dye it. Another option, which is sometimes mentioned, is to just get your pieces of cloth from the charnel ground and stitch them together. But here, if you're intent on disciplining yourself, you may not learn the science of mechanics. Well, how does that follow? Well, the thing is, you've got this cutting tool, and this can be used for other things. Maybe doing a bit of craft work, applying your mind to other problems. So I think this is what's meant here by the science of mechanics. Although I should point out, just by way of contrast, verse 425, when we're once again visiting the Bhumis. At the 5th and 8th stage, the Bodhisattvas acquire proficiency in mechanical arts and philosophy and attain kingship in the triple world. So let's get things in perspective here. I'll come to that verse in due course. But that verse is talking about proficiency in mechanics, and this verse is telling us we may not learn the science of mechanics. So really it's all about the attitude here, isn't it? At this point we're observing how the mind gets distracted, how it wants to move away from remembering its true nature as awareness. So the underlying theme I would suggest here is to observe how the mind behaves in the wake of an enlightenment event. In a way, you almost have to dismiss it. You cannot use it as a base for operating in the world, because it's got nothing to do with the world. We can expect no material benefits from it. We can expect no special privileges from it. We can expect no special respect for it. It has to be its own reward. All satisfaction is ultimately derived from it, not from our relationship with the world. And if you've got a problem with that, then examine it. Examine what you're hoping for, what you're looking for. Because this is the ego, and this is exactly what we're working to undermine.